was the steering. So for the Giulia Quadrifoglio, the steering was the highlight. It was razor sharp. I could only compare it to like a Porsche. It would be like,
Really?
yeah, it was
What?
sharper than a lot of the modern Ferraris, even the steering rack. And I tell people it's like the body of a 3 Series with like Porsche Cayman steering, hydraulic, pre-electric. The hydraulic Cayman steering, and but then the power of like a California T Ferrari. It
It's the
was
same
like this.
engine, I believe.
It's
It's
same
just
engine, 6-cylinder instead of 8, and yeah, it was one of those things. I honestly, I went to test drive it as a lark. I was driving by, and I said, I've seen these on, Car and Driver, gave it a 10 best or whatever. So I
nice.
go in, I pull in, and I test drive one. I actually test drove the 4-cylinder first, and I was like, oh, this thing feels great. So I leave. I don't think I'm going to buy it. But then I'm sitting in court. I remember just sitting in court, and I was thinking about, I really liked how that car felt. And then, like I said, I already had a 458. I had a 355. And I was like, I want to go back. And so I went back, and
In the middle of
Yeah.
court, this
yeah,
man's thinking
yeah.
about
Yeah, no, I was
Couldn't
like,
focus.
so, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it
No,
was
I'm
like,
sitting there
should I
because
go
you're
back to-
waiting,
Yeah.
and so
like
then I
two
go
big
back.
Yeah,
turbos,
I know,
a
yeah.
V6.
Actually, I got to
Oh.
correct myself. I didn't have the 458 yet. I had the 355. But I go back, and I'm like, can I drive the Quadrifoglio? And they're like, well, we don't just let people drive it.
Of course I didn't.
And I was
see
like,
yeah,
okay. I'm in a suit and an Audi A8.
it's a big
So I'm
body.
not
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm like, all right, fine. I'll take the 4-cylinder. They're like, oh, okay. So then I fill out the paperwork, and then the finance manager comes over and he's like, are you sure you don't want to try the Quadrifoglio before you buy this? And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. All right. I'll try it now. I guess now I'm good enough.
Yeah, once I
Yeah,
see the credit,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah. They pull my
finance,
credit. They
yeah.
pull my credit first, and then they're like, okay, you can drive it.
Oh my
So
God.
I almost, that's that instinct where you're just like, no, forget it. That's what's going to
It
be.
doesn't feel right.
Yeah. But no, so I was like, okay, you know what? Fair enough. I'll go try it. So I drove out, and as soon as I got on the 95, I got on the freeway. Ah, I was like, done. I was like, all right, I'll take this one.
You were sold.
It was like, yeah, as soon as I got on it, because the mid-range torque, it had 445 pounds of torque, and so you get on the freeway, you're doing 50, and you push it, and it's just like, it was just leaps forward. I was
Nice.
like, okay, that was
Sold.
yeah, I'll take it.
Oh.
So that was one of the few cars and I would say that and the Subaru WRX are the only two cars where I test drove it and I immediately was like, this is it. That's what I want.
Really?
Yeah.
A WRX.
Yeah, it was when I was in law school.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. We went and we were trying different cars. My wife wanted a Jetta and I wanted to try the Subaru first, and we tried that, and it was like, as soon as I tried it,
Isn't
it clicked.
it amazing that you've seen your life and the level that you play out level up over time, going from a WRX
Yeah.
to a Giulia Quadrifoglio, not the regular Giulia,
Yeah.
right? Then you already had a Ferrari at the time. Then
Yeah.
going to the 458, I think maybe you
The
got
458
the
coupe,
F12
yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, so I had the 458, and then I had that a year. I put 11,000 miles on it the first year I had it. I was daily driving it basically.
Nice.
It's a marketing tool right there.
Yeah. And then I was driving down Flamingo, and I was just driving in traffic. I was behind some other cars, and a lady oncoming in a Buick, she made a left and T-boned me.
They
And
T-boned you in a 458?
Yeah.
What car
hit-
was the lady driving?
Buick Park Avenue, 1997.
It's
And
like one
she-
of those guys like, you hit a what?
Yeah. So farmers asked me, they're like, are you going to make a claim on your own insurance? I was like, well, does she have like 200,000 in property coverage? And she's like, nope, 2550. And I was like, no, 20,000 in PD, actually 20,000 in property damage. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I am. But yeah, no, she made a left. She hit me, spun me out, airbags went off. And then she actually hit another car too and totaled him too. So she totaled 3 cars in one go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
What
that was
happens with that if they don't have insurance? So let's say somebody
Yeah.
hits you. If they don't have insurance, how does that work?
well, it goes back to your own insurance. So if they hit you and like in Nevada, a person only has to have $25,000 in bodily injury liability coverage. So like if they hurt somebody, what we call 2550, so 25,000, 50,000 for everyone in the car, and only 20,000 in property damage.
That's nothing.
Wow.
So if someone hits you, you can only assume that they have 20,000 in coverage for their car. So you have to use your own insurance, and that's your own collision coverage. So You got liability, collision, underinsured, uninsured, and then medical payment coverage. That's the four main types of car insurance. So yeah, no, it just goes back to your own insurance.
If you have the bare minimum as well, what happened? Like,
Well, okay, then it would just they would pay up to that, and
And then,
you'd be stuck.
wow.
Like people who buy only liability, legally you only need liability to drive. So some people only buy liability, and then if someone hits you and they're uninsured, you get nothing for your car.
Wow.
And we see that, and then people are upset. But it's like you got to buy your own coverage for your own car. That's your collision coverage.
and I
Those-
think,
Go ahead.
you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think I believe insurance companies are their business at the end of the day, and sometimes they can be a little bit, I don't say scammy, but scammy finicky at some certain
Yeah.
levels, right? Because when I went for my coverage, they like I went and insured my R7, right?
Yeah.
They went ahead and gave me the standard that they gave me, whatever. A month later, Mike, shout out Millionaire Investor, if you're watching this, he's like, "What's your insurance like?" I sent him a screenshot. I was like, "This is it." He's like, "Yeah, you need to go bump those numbers up."
Those are rookie
The
numbers.
guys you're cruising with have $500,000,
Yeah.
$700 million cars that you're going with, right? It's no longer, you have to go upgrade it. And I went and maxed out the policy. Don't hit me.
Yeah.
I went and maxed out the
Uh.
policy and added the precautions to make sure I'm good. And it went up by like $45.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, dude, this is so crazy because like it went from, let's say, like $50,000 in personal, injury or whatever, up to like $450,000. That's a big
Yeah.
difference for only $40 a month.
Yeah, I always tell people buy as much as you can get. Some people you'll always find a number that you're not comfortable with, but you definitely want as much as you can get third party, especially once you start having a house, you've got cars, you've got some savings.
Assets.
You need to have, yeah, once you have assets, you need to have enough insurance to cover those assets just in case, because if someone hits you, if like when a client comes in, I can run a background check on the other side pretty quickly and I see houses, cars, and I know they've got assets. And it has happened where I had one where the guy owned a service company in town, and he had 3 houses in his name, 8 cars, including Porsche, 2 Range Rovers, and like 6 work trucks.
Ooh.
He had a $50,000 policy.
No way.
And so,
You're
yeah,
kidding me.
so his employee, it's not even him, right? His employee driving one of his work trucks, it hits my clients, three people in a truck, and then all they had is 50, and yeah, I did go after
You
it.
go
And
after
he
the
had to cut a
assets.
check, because he had to cut a check at the end
Oof.
because I didn't give up, and we went all the way to trial. But yeah, no, so you have to have enough to cover your own assets, but then the UM/UIM is what covers you on your physical body, like from personal injuries,
Got it.
if someone else hits you. Because again, Nevada, 25,000. If someone hits you, you can only assume they've got 25,000. California, I'm not a California attorney, but when I understand it's 15,000. So,
It's 1.5 in California, so
Yeah.
it's cheaper in California
Yeah.
than it is
Yeah.
here.
That's
And
crazy.
everything's
so
like
someone hits you,
40% more.
Yeah.
you get 15, and they can be gone, and so you have to have your own insurance coverage that covers you, and that's key. And I learned that too, like, but in the sense of in that 458 crash, her insurance paid out in days, and then my insurance at the time, I had UM/UIM, but as soon as I got the initial ER bills, they paid too. So
Good.
but then I was like 2 months after the crash and I couldn't get any more treatment, right? It's like, oh, I had to go to, just use health insurance instead.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. You were
It's
actually
like-
physically injured.
yeah, the
Bad.
airbag actually is what gets you.
Really?
So yeah,
My God. Yeah, I had a
Sorry.
pretty bad accident too.
what happened there?
I got I got
Sorry, it's my
rear-ended
son.
by an 18-wheeler, and I got sandwiched between the 18-wheeler and a Volkswagen Jetta.
Oh, jeez.
The 18-wheeler went all the way up to my back seats, and I went underneath the Jetta. So the exhaust of the Jetta literally put a hole inside of I had a Mercedes E350 at the time.
Yeah.
It was my dad's,
Yeah,
right? I went underneath the Jetta, and I get out of the car. The worst injury that I sustained from that, believe it or
Yeah.
not, maybe it's my back. I mean, to this day, I still feel a little bit interesting in my back, but was because I was driving like a douchebag at 16 years old. The airbag popped, my watch and everything, bam, right to the forehead, right?
Yeah.
So that was pretty much the worst experience injury that I had.
That's
from
brutal.
that.